Digital interactive notebooks. I'm going to talk a little bit today about how to grade and a little bit about management too, workflow for digital interactive notebooks. I may make some mistakes, but I've decided that I'm just going to keep going. Otherwise, I will never make any videos because it takes me like 2 hours to make a 10-minute video. So here we go. The benefits of going digital. So I first want to talk about why you might want to switch to digital interactive notebooks instead of those composition books. What are the benefits? I've done both, and I've been doing digital for about 3 years now, so I feel like I have quite a bit of experience in this area. Let's start with the notebooks themselves first. So this sign used to be hanging outside my classroom door, because one thing that was a problem for me a lot was that we'd go to do a notebook assignment and students didn't have their tape or they didn't have their scissors, and it just created supply problems that made things take longer. So some of the problems that I noticed with paper notebooks is that the pages can get damaged, stuck together. Students can't easily go back in and edit or update something in their notebook. Like they'd have to erase a whole entire page or something if they wanted to make a change, or tear it out and I've had kids tear it out and do a new page and then tape a new page in. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. Glue versus tape. So glue was a deal breaker for me. Even in middle school, kids did not seem to understand how to use glue properly. So we went with tape, but even with tape, there would still be some mishaps, or you get the taping people's mouths shut or all that other fun stuff. You have the mystery stains. So when you're grading someone's notebook and you feel like you want to wash your hands afterwards because you have no idea what's on this page, that's a thing that doesn't happen with digital. Water damage, seen that happen. Someone's whole entire notebook was ruined. Notebooks get lost. That's an absolute nightmare because then all their work is gone. Added expense. So I don't know about what your school situation is, but at my school, I think we got maybe $75 for supplies for the whole entire year. And if you teach middle school, you have several classes of students, so you have probably 75 students. That's $1 per kid. You might be able to get notebooks on sale at, Walmart or Target or one of those big box stores for 99 cents at back to school sales, but still it's not going to be enough to cover all the supplies. And I didn't work with a student population that supplied their own materials. So I was supplying highlighters, pencils, crayons, scissors, tape for 30 students, and it was very expensive. But I put a question mark after that one because it could be a benefit to go digital, but it could also not. It just depends on how you do things, because I have noticed that I incur different expenses with digital. For example, pro versus the free account for different things that I want to add on to the notebooks, like technology tools. So there is that element to keep in mind. And then lastly, how am I supposed to read this? So I was noticing that my eyes were not as good as they used to be. And I would have some kids who prided themselves on how tiny they could write. Or you have the kids whose handwriting is just really, really bad, and you can't read it. So that's one thing that's nicer with a digital notebook is it's typed, so you don't have any problems reading it. Let's talk about the benefits specifically for students. So here's some of the things that I didn't like about analog or composition book notebooks. And that was the cutting and pasting, obviously messy. I'd have to go around after class and pick up little papers all over the floor because kids didn't throw away their scraps. The supplies are expensive. And I also didn't like how much time students were spending on copying things down into their notebook or on cutting and pasting. Like cutting and pasting didn't feel like a very academic activity that was helping them. And I didn't like the time that was wasted on that. And it seemed like it was a lot of time that went into cutting and pasting and gluing and taping things. And then the other big one is that students lose their notebooks. That was a very sad thing when that would happen because all their work from the year was gone. And then also students who are absent from school. So when you're using an analog format and somebody misses an assignment that was supposed to be in their notebook, then you have to go copy another page. Or if you have a really good system for that, they're still going to have to find the page. Even if you have a really good system for keeping those papers for kids who are absent, other kids sometimes go in there and get new pages, and then you don't have enough copies and you have to go make copies. And yeah, I just noticed that when I went digital, students spent more time interacting with each other, interacting with the learning task rather than supplies, and students could access their notebooks anywhere with Wi-Fi and a device. So there was no problems of losing notebooks. There was no problem of, I left my notebook at home. I left my notebook in my locker. All of these issues went away, and it felt like the focus was more on the task and the learning. And students who were absent could easily make up their work, which was very nice for me, made my life easier. Speaking of making my life easier, what are the benefits for the teacher? So, obviously, spending time on the copy machine, not one of my favorite ways to spend my morning before school starts or my passing period or my lunch break, especially when you go in there and there's that one teacher who really likes to spend their lunch making 60 20-page packets for their class while everyone's sitting around and they have like one copy they need to make and they're just like making these huge packets. Yeah, not for me. Also, the differentiation opportunities are limited in a paper and pencil notebook, whereas if you go digital, there's so many extra layers of support that you can add into the notebook assignments. Students can easily edit and revise their notebook assignments in a digital format. The time spent grading. Let's talk about the wagon for a second. I would spend so much time at home going through a stack of like 60 notebooks, giving students feedback. Or I would not spend time doing that, and then students are getting no feedback. Carting those notebooks home and then back to school was just something that I came to really resent doing. So going digital just made that so much easier. I could go grade notebooks at soccer practice, and instead of pulling out my wagon, I just open up my device and I can be grading everybody's stuff and giving them feedback while I'm sitting at a practice with my own kids. It just made things so much easier. And giving feedback was a whole lot easier. And that's going to be my focus for today. I'm going to show you some different ways to give students timely feedback in a way that is less work for you. These are just some teacher hacks that I came up with. So let's get into that. Whether you use a wagon, I've seen people using laundry baskets. I ended up getting a really nice rolling cart that I liked. I've seen people use suitcases. I have seen teachers using all kinds of interesting things to cart those notebooks home for grading. But like I said, your options for giving feedback are very limited and time consuming. One thing I did not enjoy was seeing the same thing over and over again in students' notebooks and rewriting that same comment 60 times. Or even if you get like a custom made stamp and you stamp the page and check the boxes of stuff, that doesn't feel very personalized to the student, in my opinion. So I'm going to show you 4 different things for giving students feedback. I'm going to start with audio feedback. So there is a tool that I learned about during distance learning that was an absolute lifesaver for me. It was so wonderful. And that tool is called Moat. And it is a Chrome extension. It works in Google Classroom. It works right in Slides. Let me show you what it looks like. So here's an example from a digital notebook. You can see that little purple M up at the top. It's right there in my slides. All I do is click on that purple M, and then the record box pops up. I start, and I say what I wanted to say about the assignment. The great thing about Moat is that I have a teacher dashboard that I can go into, and it actually tells me if students listened to my feedback or not, which I thought was super cool and I liked so much. It works with Google Classroom too, so when they turn in assignments in Google Classroom, you can leave them audio feedback there, and they can give you audio feedback on your feedback or reply to your comment or whatever. Google Keep. So before I found Moat, Google Keep was something that I relied on heavily. I still think Google Keep is a great way to give feedback, and here's why. So what I would do is I had categories of notes in my Google Keep, and you can see right there, there's a little orange Post-it note with a light bulb on it. So it's already integrated into the slides. And I had lists about different things that I felt like came up a whole lot, or I pulled in things off of a rubric that was being used to grade. And the great thing about that is you can just copy what you already had there, so you don't have to type it up again, copy it and paste it as a comment on their slide. Another thing I really liked, you'll see down here. So I had noticed that students were having a lot of trouble with verb tenses. You can add in your little comment a reteaching video, something super short. So I might make a comment, hey, I'm noticing blah, blah, blah about your verb tenses. Check out this 2-minute video. So Google Keep, wonderful thing. It does take a little bit to set it up and put all those comments in there, but once that's done, it saves you a ton of time. Nearpod. So Nearpod is something that I also relied on very heavily during distance learning and came to love. Pear Deck is basically the same thing. It's a little bit different. I was a Pear Deck user, and our school decided to go with Nearpod because it had more pre-made lessons in there. But I was always a person who liked to make my own lessons. And I found that Nearpod was a little bit more challenging in the lesson creation part rather than Pear Deck. But once I got the hang of it, it really was a great tool. And it's a good tool for feedback. So a lot of the slides that I make for my students' digital notebooks can also be used in Nearpod. So I could use slides that we had in our notebook to do a whole class lesson on that. And that's a way of giving feedback because you're talking about everybody's work and you can show different things on the screen. Peer feedback. So I'm going to spend a little bit extra time talking about peer feedback because it's something that I think is really important. Meaningful peer review has the potential to positively contribute to student learning and achievement in several ways. There's a lot of research out there on this. When students engage in the critical analysis and reflection associated with assessing the work of their peers, the result is they get timely and more frequent feedback. When writing is reviewed by peers, students will receive more timely and frequent feedback than if the teacher is the only one providing it. I also find that kids tend to value the feedback and the opinions of their peers more than mine. So they will often do better work if they know their peers are going to see it. Focus on goals. So by assessing whether or not other students' writing examples meet the requirements of an assignment, students are focused or forced to focus on the goals instead of grammar and mechanics. Clarifying ideas. Students clarify their own ideas as they explain them to others. as they're teaching something to somebody else, they are learning it better for themselves. And they formulate questions about their classmates' writing. Enhance student learning. The student learning outcomes are improved through the exchange of ideas that happen with peer review. So how do I do peer review in the notebooks? Well, first of all, you have to have the right kind of culture in your classroom in order to do peer review. So you have to be building that safe space for students. You have to teach them, explicitly teach them how to give feedback. This is a page that I put in my notebooks to teach kids how to give feedback. And I have 4 categories: glows, grows, trims, and wonders. And then next to each category, it explains what would you get rid of or delete in the piece and why. Then next to that, on the other side, it gives them some sentence frames to kind of word their comment in a positive and academic way. A lot of times I do this in a Jamboard. So each student will post, in this example, we were just focusing on their conclusion of an essay. So they'll post their conclusion there. Other students will read it and give them feedback on that glows and grows side. What about grading? So we talked about giving feedback, but what about actual grades? Here's how I managed the grading of notebooks in my class. Number 1, you don't have to grade everything. I'm going to say it again. You don't have to grade everything. Don't feel like that you have to grade every single assignment students do in their notebooks. You don't. So for a notebook assignment that was going to go on their portfolio, that means it's going to get a grade. I would put that assignment in a slide deck. And this is an example of what one of those would look like. So this was a writing example. At the top, it says an assignment number here. What assignment is that? That way students who are absent can find, okay, I missed assignment number 5. They can find that assignment, the directions and everything they need for it. Thing number 2 is most of the time an assignment had other lessons that led up to that. So in my actual assignment thing, there was a link here to Google Classroom for the student-paced mode of the class assignment that we had done for each one of these things. This is their prompt. And then I have a checklist over here for formatting. Formatting is super, super, super important to emphasize up front. Once students get the hang of that, you don't really need to go over it that much or even really include it. But at the beginning, you really need to emphasize formatting on their student website or portfolio. I'll show you why in just a second. Sometimes my notebook assignments that were going to go on their portfolio would have a page that looked like this. We generally would upload and do portfolio work on a Friday because we had done lessons throughout the week that led up to some final product that, hey, this is going to be really cool. Let's put this on our notebooks or on our websites. So I would also have what I call a flex day on Fridays. And in each of these boxes, it would say what their assignment had been on Monday. On Tuesday, they were supposed to do this, whatever, leading up to it. And then Friday was upload and write the reflection. Their prompt would have been, or their assignment would have been in here. Here's what a final one looks like. This was actually from my history class, I think. So on a flex day, this was in distance learning, so we were using breakout rooms, but it could apply the same for in class. It's a good visual for you to know where the kids are at, like a big overview. So if they don't have the work done, they can't put anything on their website. So that's room number 1. You didn't do the work, you need to finish the work. Room number 2 Their work is done. They're putting it on their website today. Room number 3, I think I'm done, but I want the teacher to look at it. And then room number 4, I am done. I'm ready to go. Give me something fun to do. And then at the bottom, you can see I have this. So some kids were kind of, lacking confidence, unsure of themselves. They really just like to be around me and be close to ask questions all the time. So I had that as an option too. You want to just be in the room where I'm generally going to be. Quick side note about Universal Design for Learning. So doing this type of activity here is a good way to focus on some of those principles of UDL, guiding appropriate goal setting, supporting planning and strategy development, facilitating the managing of information and resources, and most of all, enhance their capacity for progress monitoring. This is what a paper that I would do in their notebook looks like. So, and this is a goal-focused one. I had 2 different types of essay-based assignments that would go on their portfolio that they did in their notebooks. And one was a goal-focused. So we had done some lessons about these types of things in our writing. When I look at your writing, I want to see, did you write a conclusion that summarized your topic sentence and added some additional insights? So then when I would look at their essay, I would give them 2 comments about things that they needed to keep working on. Those are grows. And then things that they were doing well, or things that I've noticed that have improved on the glows side. The other type of assignment that I would have them put in there, and this is still mostly talking about English. I did do these notebooks in history as well, but it was a little bit different. But comparing 2 examples of writing. So they would choose. So I wouldn't grade every single essay that they did. Like I said, you don't have to grade everything. They would get feedback, but not an actual grade until they put something on their website. And this is a way of having them kind of reflect on their own progress. So they would choose, let's say we'd done 4 different short writing pieces. They would choose 2 writing pieces and use these guiding questions to write a reflection comparing this piece versus this piece. This is an example of my single point-ish type of rubric that I would use to give them some feedback on this final product. What did you learn from doing the work? Actually, this is, now that I'm reading it, this is a student one. So they would write their own grows and glows. What did they like about the work? What improvements does it show? And then how would they approach it differently next time? And what did they learn from doing the work? Here is an example of a student's website where they were comparing 2 short writing pieces that they had done. Both were compare and contrast essays. You can read what they said. On the bottom, imposter versus crewmate from the hit game Among Us. I did the bottom one first, and I feel that on top, I improved on the top. My lead was much better. So I highlighted some of the things I liked about this reflection. My lead was much better. We had done a lot of lessons about how to write a good lead. I gave facts about the holidays, and I got personal with how I am related with these 2 days. On both of them, I feel I could have added more pictures to emphasize my point. I also could have had more words that go well with compare and contrast to make my paragraph even better. So that was another lesson that we had done, is to use signal words to show that you're comparing something. So I was happy to see that in the reflection. And this also was due during distance learning. Artifacts versus essays. So this is a different type of thing out of the notebook for them to do. And this is more of they did something in their notebook and they download that one page of their notebook as an image. They put that image on their website and then they write a reflection about it. So I called that an artifact. You'll see artifact, an image of something that they did versus an essay. So there were only two different types of posts we would put on our website. This is the explanation for an artifact. And again, it was usually a slide because we were all digital. They had guiding questions to ask and then some steps for writing their reflection. Here's what an assignment for that would have looked like. In my slides where I have, these are all your assignments so they can find work that they missed, and a lot of kids were missing work during distance learning time. But I wanted to show you what one looked like that I would have used so you can kind of see all the different pieces. So first of all, this one was for my history class. Assignment number is on here. All the assignments were numbered. You will highlight and reflect upon your work in your history notebooks and share your projects on the history page of their website. Notice how the link to their notebook is here. So if they need to go back into their notebook to find a product that they want to put on their website, that links to Google Classroom where their notebook was assigned. Step by step, making it simple. Is your assignment complete? The link will take you to Google Classroom to view your work. Also, when I give explanations about something, I record it. So as I am giving explanations, even in live class, I did this. I would record myself using Screencastify so that students could re-watch the directions. It's great for anybody who is absent. It's great for that kid who says, "What are we supposed to do?" As soon as you finish giving the directions, I just tell them to watch the video. Step 2. Notice at the top that I also have, so I taught multiple classes. This I know is for class A. That was important to do because linking to the assignment here, I needed to be linking it to the right class. Also, the date that we did it and what the assignment is up here at the top. I already talked about this, but just want to point that out again. It's good to have the subject and assignment numbers. Each new assignment you do for their website, give it a number. Then the step-by-step instructions. And I even added a GIF here of some of the different things that they had done in their notebook that they might choose from. So they had a problem and solution page. They had a cause and effect page, and then there was a page on social classes. And then this reminder down here, because sometimes I would try to see somebody's something and they didn't share it in the right way. So then when I look at their website, all I could see is that. There's a way to make it so that doesn't happen. And I can go into that in a different video where I talk about setting up the website. And I already talked about that too. Pro tip, save time by recording yourself when you give the instructions. I cannot emphasize enough how much of a lifesaver that is. This is a slide that the students have for artifacts only. So those are images of something from their notebook. And I use these for both English and history. What do I write? So step 1, because kids will always say, well, what do I write? Step 1, describe the work. They need to describe it in such a way that somebody who is not in our class or school could look at what they did and understand it. Number 2, think about your selection. So I kind of give them a little bit of direction in what way to go here. Are you going to talk about it because it's an example of your best work? Or are you going to be reflecting on ways in which your work could improve? Best work, I have 2 questions for them to talk about in the pink. If it's work that could improve, I have a couple of questions in blue for them to respond to. Here's an example of an artifact. So this was a history assignment. Actually, it was kind of history and English together because we read some stories, but it was also tied into our history. We were learning about ancient India. This is a student's response here. So she says, during this assignment, she's describing the assignment. We had to read a tale from ancient India and look at 3 topics of culture from the story. Like one of the topics was shared understandings. On the slide, I wrote about shared understanding of karma. Karma was one of the vocabulary words in our history. In the end, the evil stepmom got karma for being selfish and unkind. I tried my hardest during this assignment, and I had fun learning about Indian culture. I think I did a really good job, too, considering that it was an on-your-own presentation. Overall, I was happy to do this project and think it was a solid A. And you could see the work that she did on her slide. It was several slides of work, 4 slides, I think, but this was her best slide that she chose to put there. Oh, yes, and I need to talk about formatting. So because I'm showing an example of a student website, I want to point out the formatting because this is key for grading students' websites. If they have their assignments all over the place, it can get really challenging to find the assignment that you want to grade. So, assignment number, do you see that? It's numbered assignment number 12. The date, 6/1/21. The title of the assignment, Priya's Magic Bowl. That was the book that she had read. But those are key things for me to have to find their assignment, because then I can just go down the list and I see assignment 1, 2, 3, then we skip to 6. Whoops, we're missing a whole bunch of assignments in here. Here's another example. Assignment number 8. The date was 12/15/20, Cyrus versus Darius. And they had to write a compare and contrast essay about Cyrus the Great versus Darius the Great, who was actually the greatest. And this one is, they just put their essay here. So they didn't write a reflection necessarily. This is their short essay history assignment that they put on their website. Turning students' websites in. So I create a very simple Google form. Student websites, your first name, you can do first and last name, but I only really needed first name, and a link to your website. Once students submitted it there, I would have a spreadsheet then, and I would do all my grading on that spreadsheet. I'll show you what it looked like. So I blurred out their names, but here's my spreadsheet where everybody turned in the links to their website. This is a huge time saver because, number one, if you have an assignment in Google Classroom and kids submit their website there, they cannot work on their website anymore until you return that assignment. And I didn't want that happening. I wanted them to always be working on their website and improving assignments and all that other good stuff. And so this is just a much better way to check their websites. Plus, I can just go down the spreadsheet and go click, 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 open a bunch at a time, check it, check it, check it, check it, check it, and then put a grade here. So assignment number 1, assignment number 2, assignment number 3, assignment number 4. If they didn't turn it in, I made the box red so I could easily see. And this was during distance learning, so there's a lot of red boxes here. But so I could easily see, hey, I need to talk to student number 8 about assignment number 2, 7, and 10. If their grade is in a pink box, that means they turned it in late. I don't have them lose points for that or anything, but I just wanted to know. that they turned it in late. So I make the box pink after it was red. I put a grade in, I turn it pink. How do I come up with these grades? So here's an example of a grading criteria that I might give them. 2 points for formatting. I really emphasize formatting, formatting, formatting. I have to be able to find those assignments on their website. So I want a title bar. I want that title bar to have a dark emphasis, so it kind of sets the assignments apart easily. It needs to have the date, and then it needs to have an image and text. That's the formatting. Then under assignment specifics, that stuff would be different depending on what the assignment was. This is an example from, they had to write a 6-word memoir in image format. Word count is 6. They also had to write a paragraph to go with it. The paragraph of writing that goes into more detail about your memoir is at least 4 sentences. I have to put stuff like that there because kids always want to know how many sentences. So I got tired of trying to explain why I didn't want to tell them how many sentences, and I just started giving them a minimum sentence amount. And then finally, writing is published quality work, and we talk about what that means all the time. So that's just a space for me to mark, are they following my instructions of what is published quality work? I still want students to give each other feedback on their websites. So what I do is I create a Padlet bulletin board. I think that Wakelet would also work. There's probably other sites that would work for this too, but I've just used Padlet for such a long time and I'm super comfortable with it. But this is an example. I have my own website that's like theirs, but it has some different short video tutorials about how to do stuff, questions that I would get asked a lot, all the assignments in the slide deck so they could find those easily, examples of what stuff should look like. So mine is on there, that's mine. But then other students are here, and I encourage them to go and look at other people's websites and give them comments. Now, this photo was taken earlier in the year, but later on in the year, you would see under somebody's website a whole bunch of comments here. And this is one way of getting around, because I do allow them to have their own blog too, where they can write whatever they want. And one thing about using a Google site for quote unquote blogging is that people cannot leave comments. And I do want to encourage those academic conversations and feedback and all that other good stuff. So I have them leave the comments on the Padlet. That's why we have it. That's it for today. Some of the lesson pages that I showed today are from a new digital interactive notebook that I just created. And if you like what it looks like and you want to purchase it, you can go to my Teachers Pay Teacher store. And also I wanted to mention that I have a new website. My previous website, I had the books on and I had middle school mine. Those are combining into one overall website, and it's called Virtually Instructable. I have a whole bunch of new stuff that's coming out, and I hope that you will subscribe to my channel, and I hope you will check out my blog.